My 365 Podcasts with me, Pete Cohen. I have a wonderful guest with me today. I'm super excited that the incredible Dr. Rakowski is my guest today. Dr. Rakowski, how are you?
Hey, fantastic, fabulous, coffeelicious, enjoying life, and ready to make the world better today.
Brilliant. So of all the people that I've spoken to in my life, you're definitely someone who I've followed. I've followed for about 3 years. I don't mean followed as in, being in your house and hiding in bushes and stuff like that, but I've followed your advice and, you're someone. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done and so on and so forth.
Sure. I'll go back. I had a very modest beginning. I realized that I didn't want finances to limit me, so I got a nice college education, became an engineer, worked in corporate America, realized that wasn't going to take me where I wanted to go. Had a passion for health, became a chiropractor, nutritionist, acupuncturist, started serving the world that way. Listened to Zig Ziglar a couple decades ago, and he said you can have everything in life that you want if you help enough other people get what they want. So I figured I needed to leverage my actions. So I started teaching doctors all over the world, and the more impact I had, then the more income I developed. And then finally I realized that there's other ways to really leverage your time, money, and efforts, even other people's ideas, actions, and create wealth beyond your wildest dreams.
So let's just talk a little bit about how we met. So I think it's how long ago now? It must have been 3 years ago, maybe more, maybe 4 years ago. I think, maybe 4 years ago. I came to see you. My wife had a terminal, or she was told it was terminal, 18 months to live, brain tumor. I came to see you, and I never forget one of the things that you said. So my wife was being treated by a guy called Dr. Brzezinski, and I wanted her to see a nutritionist because she'd had cancer before, and someone came into the clinic where we were, and your name came up, and I thought, oh, I know that name, Dr. Rakowski. I thought, I wonder if it's that guy that I'd heard, Paul Chek, Charles Poliquin, two very well names in the fitness world, and it was you. And I phoned you up the next day. We came in. And that was the beginning of something incredible. And one of the things you said just really struck a chord. You asked, how does a whirlwind start? How does a tornado start? You said the conditions have to be right. That's how cancer starts. And that's when you encouraged my wife to change her diet. And what's your kind of philosophy or your approach to disease like that?
Well, it starts on the inside. That's where the conditions start, whether you're talking about mental conditions, biochemical conditions, the stressors that we put ourselves under, whether they're thermal, mechanical, chemical, emotional, spiritual, all those things impact us. So I like to say that health is an inside job. Happiness is an inside job. We've got to start working on the inner to get the outer to be exactly what we want it to be. So the lecture I attended over 2.5 decades ago, the guy was talking about cancer, and he just asked the question, how does a hurricane start? And people had all kinds of sophisticated answers, but the answer is it's when conditions are just right. And it's the same with whatever we're manifesting. We control the conditions, we create the conditions, and when we create the right conditions, then we create the right outcome. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to create a nutrient-rich, alkaline, oxygen-rich environment in Hannah's body. We did that. She's been cancer-free for 3 years and, has a beautiful life here with you.
Yeah. So with My 365, one of the things we look at is helping people master the 5 fundamentals of eat, move, sleep, positive mental attitude, some form of silence in your life. Now, I did a podcast with you a number of years ago called The Magnificent 7, very similar, but there's 2 more that you add to the 5, and that's been listened to by literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So when we look at mastering the 5 fundamentals, or the Magnificent 7, why is that so important?
Everything's based on it. I'll go with my 7 because they flow smoothly for me, but eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right every single day. And when you look at thinking right, that really drives the whole process. Everything is a choice. You and I are sitting here having a conversation, but we can sit up straight or we can slouch. We could be drinking tequila or we could be drinking super healthy coffee. Everything is a choice. If we move a better choice, we move ourselves, our lives, our body, our world in a better direction. And I love the philosophy of trying to leave everything a little better than you found it, including yourself by the end of each day.
So it's amazing. So tell me about some of the kind of diversity of the different types of people that you've spent your life working with. Tell us about some of those people.
Sure. I've worked with some of the best athletes on the history of the planet. One of my absolute favorites is Evander Holyfield, 4-time heavyweight boxing champion. After I saw him, I really dotted the I's, crossed the T's, explained the conditions of his body and what he was experiencing. And he said, wow, we've been looking for a doctor like you for 20 years. I said, you found me, tell your friends. And that led to multiple world-class athletes, Olympians. At the other end of the spectrum, I've had people literally that were sent home to die. Not in 18 months, but maybe in 18 days. And those people are alive, some of them 20 years later, enjoying life because we changed the conditions. And of course, everywhere in between. Not everybody's terminal, not everybody is, elite. Most of us are somewhere in between. And that, of course, would be the majority of the people that I see. But the goal is always find out what that person wants and then help them get the mindset and the strategy to win.
Yeah, powerful stuff. So you've kind of looked to master the Magnificent Seven of the foundations of health. And you've been doing that for a long time. But over the last few years, you've kind of had a little bit of a change in the type of work that you're doing. Tell me a little bit about that. Because let's talk about, because this is about financial freedom. So we can talk about health freedom and happiness freedom, but money is something that you're driven by to help people make money. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, money is a byproduct of services given. Impact before income is a phrase that I like. If you help a few people a little bit, well, you're going to make a little bit. If you help a lot of people a lot, you're going to make a lot. And so one of the things that I've strived to do is really empower people to take control of their lives, just like you do. And, when you look at mastering yourself, you have to do that before you can go out and impact and share and master the world. As you become better, stronger, faster, smarter, you literally have more influence. You can move people, motivate people to really take charge of their own lives.
Yeah.
And so, with help of great people like yourself, creating a network of well over 4,000 people in a dozen countries around the world that are literally sharing health and opportunity. And a lot of those are creating financial freedom for themselves.
So when we talk about financial freedom, I think I heard you give a talk once where you said if you show people two doors and one door said financial freedom and the other one said health freedom, that you and I would probably go through the health door, but I think the majority of people would go through the wealth door and say, give me the money and then I'll get healthy, right?
Yeah, well, that was actually from practical experience. I was teaching a health seminar in Seattle, and I had a small room with about 40 people in it, and the room next door was wall-to-wall, packed, standing room only, and it was basically get rich now. I happened to look in, and there was a picture up on the main screen with a guy with a belly sitting down on his thighs getting ready to hit a golf ball. I thought, wow, okay, he can hit a golf ball, but with that big belly, he's cutting, a dozen years off of his life. We ought to maybe think about focusing on that first. But why can't you have it all? Why can't someone that has the savvy to create a network of people, to serve people, why can't they start within? In reality, that's the way of lasting success.
So there's a book, right, that I heard one of our mentors, Mr. Holton Buggs, talk about, Speed Wealth.
Yep.
And in the book, the guy talks about how we live in an era where there are more millionaires than there's ever been, people creating serious wealth between 3 and 5 years. Tell us how that's kind of possible, or actually tell us why so many people aren't waking up to the fact that there are opportunities out there and people kind of relying still on the traditional model that exists.
Well, people are reluctant to change. That's just one of those interesting realities. You always have slow adopters, you have fast adopters. We have billionaires before the age of 30. You look at guys like Mark Zuckerberg. He just understood that the more people that you're able to impact in a meaningful way, the more money that you can make. Zuckerberg, by the way, is the founder of Facebook. So, why people stick in a traditional model where it won't take them where they want to go is hard to answer that question for anybody else. I think people are generally afraid of change.
Yeah, and holding on to what they know.
Sure.
But what's wrong with the traditional model, do you think, if you look at the world as like an overview?
Well, there's nothing wrong with the traditional model. If you want to be, if you want to just have a simple existence or a average existence, you trade 40 plus hours a week for a wage where you can basically take care of you and your family, but you're not going to get rich. My parents taught me early on, no one gets rich working for someone else. If you want to get rich, you've got to go out and create something, share something, build a massive network of people that you're serving, there's something called the law of compensation. And it very simply states, the more people you help them, the more you yourself are compensated.
Yeah. So when we look at the different types of models available, so one of the models that you're in is the network marketing model. Tell me a little bit about that.
It took me literally 30 years to embrace that model. I was introduced to it at age 18 when I was actually selling coupon books door to door. Someone looked at me and said, wow, you'd be great in this business. And I went to a meeting and a gentleman drew some circles up on the board, and he actually showed how you can magnify your influence, your network, through just influencing a few people, getting them to buy into your vision. And I realized that the numbers were real, the math was real. But I went home and there was my brother-in-law, and he said, Bob, you don't want to do that. I tried that. I have a garage full of soap. Well, times have changed, and reality is about 90% of people that will attempt network marketing really won't go anywhere with it. And that's probably true of about anything. You look at high achievers, the high achievers are about 3%. So you want to get people that have a big enough reason to build themselves in a way where they can have influence, where they can share and empower people and go from there. And once I embraced the idea, I started connecting with people that I knew. And since we had a great product, it was easy enough to get them to endorse it. And sure enough, in time, you get some builders.
And talk to me about your perception, because I actually remember coming to see you with Hannah.
Yeah.
And on the door it says, no, network marketers not welcome.
Yeah. Well,
is that sign still there?
It is. It's funny.
So why was that there? What was your perception of the industry?
Well, my perception was that it was a great industry, that it was an industry of personal development, but I personally did not know anybody that had made any money in it. And, now that's changed quite a bit. But the people that were in it, I knew they were always moving forward. But reality is, I was someone that had a network of people already. I had literally thousands of patients, and it seemed like every single week, someone was coming in selling the latest and greatest something by a network marketing model, and they wanted me to share it with my patient base. And I had already made my allegiances and alliances with the top nutraceutical companies in the world, and then actually was lecturing with them. We had a great win-win circumstance, and I wasn't interested in bringing in a new product line.
Yeah. So what actually changed?
Well, my son came home, and he told me that he had invested in a healthy coffee business, which I thought was interesting because he was only 18 years old. And he said, yeah, Dad, I want you to sell this in your office. And I just simply flat out said, no, I'm not going to do that. With my patient base, I don't need to be selling anything, that is not top quality. And he says, well, then you're going to like it, because this is top quality. And I really had my doubts that it would be. So I did what I said I'd do. I dug into the company, and I realized they had 300% more quality certifications than the top nutraceutical company in the world. And in fact, that's how this product has gotten into over 50 countries in a very short period of time and crossed $1 billion in sales faster than any other company in the industry. So it was a phenomenal product, and it fit an amazing niche, and it replaced a less healthy habit, coffee and tea, with a much, much, much healthier coffee and tea.
So how long did it take you to so tell me what happened with your son then? So you then started selling the product? Didn't I hear you say you went to a meeting with him because you wanted to get his money back and prove that it was all a scam?
Yeah, that's exactly true.
So what happened at that meeting?
Well, I saw the proof that I had never seen before in the industry. Literally, there was dozens of people that were making a lot of money by helping a lot of people. It's all about helping people.
But that's where the thing is, right? Because I used to think like you. That people say, well, it's not about helping people. It's about bringing, that's what I used to think, right? It's about you bringing people in. So you make the money off the people that you're bringing in, and you don't have to do anything. I mean, that's what a lot of people's perception is about this industry, right?
If you look at the people that have made it in this industry, they may start out with the mindset they want to help themselves, but that's a very shallow mindset that is short-lived. And in fact, it'll burn them out really, really fast. If you want something from somebody, they sense it immediately. If you want something for somebody, then all of a sudden you've got a friend and you've got a level of influence. And it really doesn't matter to me what you want, as long as it's serving to you in the world in a nice way. And I'll do what I can to connect you, to help you, to empower you, whatever your goal is. And that's really what I want to do. I want to help people get what they want. And then eventually you come across people that want what you want, and they embrace the vehicle that you do.
So tell me, because you've always been into personal development, right?
Yep.
Just like me, you've read probably a lot more books than I have, and I thought I'd read a lot. But you're constantly feeding your brain, which is a massive part of the My 365 positive mental attitude, what you're feeding your brain. So when you found out that the company that you actually have ended up joining, your son wanted you to go into the business, your son told you were going to be very successful, maybe you didn't think so at that time, but when you found out that the company was involved with Think and Grow Rich, tell me about that. Tell me about the Think and Grow Rich book, when you first read it. Tell me about that.
Well, the Napoleon Hill Foundation, Think and Grow Rich, has never allied themselves with any company, and they've been asked, to get connected with Oprah Winfrey and Donald Trump and some really powerful people. The reason they connected with the company, can I say the name?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Or Organo, is because they said if Napoleon Hill were alive today, he would actually be in that business. So I read the book at age 20. I applied the steps. I had a goal, a very strong financial goal by age of 40. And by applying the steps, I actually tripled that goal by the age of 38. So I know the system works. And that book is the #1 self-help book of all time, and is credited with literally tens of thousands of millionaires that it's created.
Yeah, I mean, that book is amazing. I mean, I must admit, I always had some very weird beliefs and ideas about money. I didn't think I was worth money. I thought money wasn't for me. If I ever had it, it was like, well, just get rid of it, spend it. But that book has been a massive game changer. Just tell me a little bit about the book itself. When was it written and what was it based on?
Yeah, 1937. So Napoleon Hill was given a 20-year project by Andrew Carnegie, and it was to interview the 500 richest people in the world and literally create a practical manual of how the average person can get rich. Because most of these people had gone from absolutely nothing to wealth beyond their wildest dreams. And they all said it started with having a definite purpose and a burning desire, and literally has 13 different steps, including training your mind to look for opportunity, protecting your mind, setting an intention, seeing opportunity everywhere. You take two different people, they walk through a city, one person sees opportunity to help so many people, the other person just sees scenery. You want to create your mind as that which sees, creates opportunity to serve.
So talk to me about the first principle, the definiteness of purpose. What does that mean in the book, Think and Grow Rich?
Well, you've got to be really, really clear about what you want. You can't want one thing one day, another thing the next day, another thing the next day. You literally have to have one thing. And that's a book that's literally, it's called The One Thing, that really expands on that purpose. Throughout the book, the author keeps saying, what is the one thing that you can do that in doing so would make everything else either easier or unnecessary?
Yeah, I suppose that's where a challenge is for a lot of people, because if they're going to be successful and they're financially free, it's not going to happen overnight. They're going to have to work outside of what they already do. So then there's more than one thing. But I suppose if you know where you want to be in your life, you could look at a model, network marketing, to create that.
Well, you certainly can. And when you look at the one thing, there's a phrase I like that says, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
You want to be excellent in everything that you do. If you're a slacker in your day job, how will people respect you to follow you at night? But if you're excellent in your day job and say, look, as Jim Rohn used to say, I'm working full-time on my job, but I'm working part-time on my fortune. And then eventually, as he did, it took him a couple of years to transition to full-time on his fortune. He created a massive fortune and a massive legacy. And he started out as a farm boy in Idaho. So it's pretty powerful what you can do as you start working on yourself. And he said, always work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
Yeah, so tell me about why you think people, perhaps who want financial freedom, should look at the network marketing model.
Well, it's the ultimate leverage model. And when you look, there's no barrier to entry.
Yeah.
If you wanted to open a franchise, you look at McDonald's, it costs about 1.2 million US. And I believe that fee is renewed in about 20 years, which they are, by the way, the #1 coffee seller in the world. If you could get a Starbucks franchise, I saw a Starbucks owner or operator, manager at one of my meetings last month. He said his store is open 18 hours a day, 365 days a year, has 40 employees, and that's a lot of things to manage. And for every $700,000 worth of coffee they sell, $600,000 goes to overhead. So you look in this business, you're required to sell about $100 a month. if you get 10,000 people, which it might be hard for people to imagine ultimately getting 10,000, but literally if you get 1,000 distributors each with 10 customers, guess what? That's 10,000 people drinking healthy coffee. If they do about $100 a month, well, now you're at $1 million a month, and there's a lot of people that have done that already. I'm at a fraction of that, a nice fraction of that, doing it part-time over the course of 4 years, and we consistently do well over $200,000 a month.
Wow, so your business is worth $2.4 million a year.
Yeah, the multiplying factor says it is. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just fascinating to me because you and I both had a negative perception about the industry. I most definitely did. I was approached in the 90s, but I thought that there was this stigma about, it's pyramid selling, and also about recruiting. I didn't feel comfortable selling anything to anyone. I found it hard enough to just be myself and kind of sell myself to other people for them to listen to me. And so why is it that people... This is the thing I wanted to ask you about people's mindset around wealth, that people often see themselves as the person that can only earn a certain amount, that most people don't have that millionaire mindset.
Yeah. Well, they call that the wealth thermostat. You set a thermostat on the wall and it'll keep within a very tight temperature range. And people have that also for really every aspect of their life, whether it's fitness or relationships or wealth. And one of the ways that you get above that is to actually start connecting with people that have higher levels and higher goals. And, I believe it was Jim Rohn that first said you are basically the summary of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So you want to spend time with people that are going to move you in a better direction. It's a lot easier for people to drag you down. So start hanging out with people that want the finer things. Some people think that rich people are, something less than ethical and often very, very snobbish. I can tell you that my experience has been just the opposite of that. They're doing all that they can to make the world better.
Yeah, I used to think that as well. I want millions because I want to do some great things with money. And people often come to me for help. And I think when you really get to the underneath the surface of what people want, most people, if they could, would like to have more money, but it's what they're prepared to do to actually go out and get it. So for someone to be successful in this type of business, what do you think is the mindset that people need? Because we talk about the 5 fundamentals, you talk about the 7. What are the fundamentals? There are universal fundamentals, right? You try not sleeping, you try not eating, you see what happens. You get those in check. And then if you're looking at the fundamentals to be successful in this type of business, what would you say they are? One, obviously, being the definiteness of purpose. Oh,
absolutely. And again, working harder on yourself. And when you start connecting with people, approaching with people, have a servant mindset.
Yeah.
If I want to make your day, you're excited to be around me. And then ultimately, my first goal is to make your life better. And then ultimately, you might ask me something about me. And I'll say, well, the thing I'm most excited about right now is actually sharing healthy coffee. Well, why are you excited about that? Because it has the number 1 superfood in the planet on it. Everybody that drinks it is literally going to get better with every single cup. People drink coffee anyways. Why not drink a healthy coffee? And by the way, this is a massive business opportunity, and the business model itself allows you to leverage the actions and activity of thousands or tens of thousands, or in some cases even hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, because I learn a lot from you. I really do. I've spent quite a lot of time with you, and I remember, I think the last time you came here, you said, or the time before that, you said, with everyone you meet, always think to yourself, how can I help this person? And I think that's why maybe people in this industry have... Some people don't always think like that. It's like, what can I get from you, rather than... And that's really interesting, because in Think and Grow Rich, one of the things Napoleon Hill talks about, amazing to think that this was written such a long time ago, 80, 90 years ago, saying the day of the go-getter is gone. It's the era of the go-giver. What can I give you? And really in this industry, it is about, if you do it ethically, I suppose, it's what you can give someone as an opportunity to create more wealth. And a lot of the network marketing companies do focus around health, don't they? Whether it's Herbalife, Forever Living, there are so many. But what they're doing is a different model, right? So you don't buy those products in the shop. You buy them through a network. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. When you talk about word of mouth advertising, word of mouth sales, it's actually estimated that 2 out of every 3 first sales, any product, any service in the entire world, is generated by a referral. So I'm imagining you grow this business by people sharing and saying, hey, this is how it's changed my life. You need to get involved with My 365. And that's the best way to grow it. When someone says, hey, come check this out, that's the best way to do it. Now, in this business, again, you want to recommend this product the same way you do anything else. If you say, hey, I really think you ought to go to this restaurant, and they go, yeah, no thanks. Well, you don't go, well, why not? Come on, go to this restaurant. It's the best restaurant ever. I'll make you a reservation. No, that would push people away. And people tend to do this. They tend to want it so bad for the other person. You can't want anything that someone doesn't want for themselves, first and foremost. And you can nurture people from where they are to ultimately where they want to be by being a great friend to them.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've learned about the industry is that really you're only going to be successful based on how much you work on yourself. I know that sounds like a cliche, but for me, as my background is in psychology, if I wanted to know what sort of a person you are, I'd say, let's go and play golf. And then those 4 hours, I'd get to see pretty much all of you, your fears, your worries, your joy, your frustrations. But this business, it shows you so much about a person. It almost like really heightens your strengths and heightens your weaknesses. And then you have an opportunity, right, to be a better version of yourself, right?
Oh, absolutely. And keep in mind, people come in with most people with a network of one person themselves.
Yeah.
And then as they start trying to grow that network, if their focus is on growing a network, not so good. If their focus is on serving, all the better. And we start out with our weaknesses and we start out not understanding. And then with each failure, we fail forward. They like to say that the biggest successes in the world are clearly the biggest failures. You've got to miss, you've got to learn, you've got to grow.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And those three things that we're all told when we're growing up, that money doesn't grow on trees. Don't talk to strangers, money doesn't grow on trees, and don't copy. And I suppose the reality of this, like any industry, is right, look, copy the people that are really successful and just follow them, and then maybe even look to do it better than them. And obviously talking to strangers is something that we're all told not to do. And money, I think so many people, I live in London and I see people going in on the tube quite a lot, and I see so many miserable people. And I suppose what I observe is it's like so many people they're like ants, and they're going to work for the king or the queen of the nest to make some. This is what Robert Kiyosaki talks about we're fulfilling other people's dreams, right? Opposed to fulfilling ours.
Well, his quote is powerful. He says, if you don't spend your time building your dream, someone will hire you to help you build theirs. And when someone's hired, I also have employees, but the standard in employment is they basically hire you at wholesale and sell you at full retail. If you're not making profit for the company, you really don't have a purpose there. So ultimately, most of us start out that way. And if we do a good job, then we can start advancing. But ultimately, if yours is the mindset that you want total freedom of time and money, well, then you need to get your own thing. The beautiful thing about this is it's a very low startup cost, as little as a couple £100, right, to get started. And there's no boundaries. 51 countries in the world. You're not limited to the 10 square mile region around a single shop.
Yeah, I think that's just where for a lot of people it's like, that sounds, you can open a global business for literally 200, and where if you open a franchise, which can cost you $1 million to get a franchise from McDonald's, and then obviously you've got to employ staff, and then you've got to, there's just so many requirements. But there's Mr. Holton Buggs, who's the chief visionary officer of the company Organo, and I heard him speak, and he said, in life you get what you don't get what you want, you get what you picture. And I realize that a lot of people don't have very good pictures of where they want to be. But then he also talks about the sacrifice. You've got to be prepared to make sacrifices. But I suppose that's a challenge for people, right? Because if the sacrifice for many people is they're doing a job they don't like, and that's a big enough sacrifice in itself. So they go home, the last thing they want to do is start working again to make another sacrifice, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I heard is you need to be able to trade what you want right now for what you want basically for your entire life.
Yeah.
So you and I right now, who knows, we might want a chocolate shake. But reality is that's not going to serve us and move us in the right direction.
Yeah.
So we're having a nice interview. Today we're going to go teach a seminar. We're going to empower people. We're going to share the opportunity. And it's actually fun. You can have fun doing it, but it's not like we're, at a show or, being entertained. We're actually doing some work, but we can make it fun.
Yeah. So I don't mind being so open and honest with everyone. I was never open to this business, a business model. No way. I actually, in the 90s, when I was a personal trainer, I got a lot of aloe vera products. I had great success, but I didn't want to sell the product. I had clients with irritable bowels, psoriasis, and it really helped. It was amazing, but it wasn't for me. And it was only having met you with my wife, and then you just said, look, Hannah, if you drink coffee, drink this. And then I was working for another a network marketing company. I wasn't in their business. They were employing me to get up and talk to people, because that's one of the things I do. I'm a speaker. There was 3,000 people in this auditorium. I'd say 60, 70% of them were women. And I just had a conversation with you. And I just said, because I was curious, hey, there must be something in this, What do you think of the product? We had a conversation, and you said, well, why don't you look at the coffee? And I went, what, that coffee that you asked Hannah to drink? What is that? Network? I had no idea. And I didn't even know what I was doing. And before I knew, I'd signed up. I honestly I didn't even drink coffee, right? I wasn't interested. I tried to get people to stop drinking coffee, because I used to watch what coffee did to people. Some people, not everyone. Then I joined your team. And to say that it's changed lives would be the biggest understatement for me in the history of my life, because my wife given 18 months to live. You said 3 years cancer-free. Well, it's actually now 5 years, believe it or not. We have a team of, I think it's over 1,200 people. How many people, which we make up part of, how many people do you have in your team?
Almost 4,200 right now.
Almost 4,200, right? Yeah. And let's be honest here, right? You and I, we would not be in this business if it wasn't for the product. If it was just normal tea and coffee, then forget it. I mean, it's just not even going to happen. But let's just look at this. What is it? What is in this tea and coffee that makes it something, I mean, incredible would just be an understatement again.
Yeah, so it's Ganoderma lucidum, which is also known as the king of herbs. So when I talk about that title, the king, I tell people, most people know the king of rock and roll, and that was Elvis. The king of pop, that was Michael Jackson. The king of kings, Jesus of Nazareth, well, we've got one king of herbs, just one, and that is Ganoderma lucidum, and that's in pretty good company. There's a website called superfoodsforsuperhealth.com, and they list the top superfoods on the planet, the things that have the most nutrient density, nutrient value. Ganoderma lucidum, again, listed number one. So it's got an incredible variety of vitamins and minerals. But besides that, being the closest thing to nutrition perfection, lots of protein, everything else, it has over 190 identified molecules that do incredible things in human physiology, like oxygenate the tissue through increasing something called nitric oxide, controlling inflammation by 5 different pathways, helping the liver and kidneys clear toxins more effectively. It's considered the most alkaline food on the planet, which is something that literally is almost a universal need. It's an immune modulator in a way that it can make allergies and autoimmunity reduce, but yet it can at the same time kill infection and kill cancer. And we keep going on and on. There's over 2,000 peer-reviewed medical studies on it. It is the king of herbs. It is the number one superfood. And the World Health Organization, and even now in America, it's known that malnutrition is the number one cause of death on the planet, not just in developing countries, but in the developed world as well.
So, I mean, I can almost hear people listening to this going, come on, you've spoken about this type of business, and now you're telling me this. It's like, whoa, how do I make sense of that? But this is a reality, right? Tell me about the Chinese and their relationship with this, because they all seem to know. Every time I meet anyone from China or Vietnam or Korea, I always ask them if they have a different name for it, but they all know about it.
Sure. Well, it was reserved for the royal family 4,000 years ago. And if anybody was not in the royal family, then they were caught with this herb. First offense, they cut off their arm. Second offense, they cut off their head. So it was very, very prized. I listened to a funny lecture just a few weeks ago, and they mentioned that this was the source of vitality for the emperor, and the emperor was known to have actually 1,000 mistresses. So when you look at that kind of vitality has been desired throughout world, the entire time, right? So everybody wants to feel better. Everybody wants to stay young. It's called the 10,000-year herb, the Irv of Immortality. It's known to take the dead and bring it to life because it literally grows on dead trees. It is nature's miracle. It's an incredible herb. And the more people that can get it in their body consistently, the better we make the world.
Well, for me personally, I've been drinking it for 3 years. I've not had a cold, not had a cough, nothing. And I've been collecting testimonials because I'm serious about helping people. So if I hear a story, I want to get it. And some of the testimonials have been incredible. What sort of testimonials have you heard from people?
Well, we can start with something as simple as people sleeping better, or people having a better workout, or people's allergies going away. We have a young lady that had 10 years of migraines, 2 to 4 migraines a week that would just take her out for a day at a time. She started getting a migraine. Her first cup of latte, It put the migraine, to rest. It never happened, and she hasn't had one in over a year. So if you can imagine being the parent to that child and watching her suffer for a decade and suddenly it's gone with a cup of coffee, that's pretty amazing. We've got people reversing diabetes. Now, I always recommend a complete program, with the Fundamental 5 or the Magnificent 7, but this is a component of it. It is, again, the number one superfood. We've got world champion athletes that use it. They say immediately they notice that their first workout after consuming it is better. So whatever you want, all of the Magnificent 7, all of the 5 can get better with this. It's phenomenal for the brain. It's known to actually reverse some of the effects of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And you might ask, well, how is that possible? Well, there's neurons in Parkinson's or Alzheimer's that are dead. There's nothing we can do about those. There's neurons that are fine. There's nothing we need to do about those. But there's also others that are functional but not functioning. So by increasing oxygen delivery, energy efficiency, detoxifying, controlling inflammation, we can make those neurons work better. So we've literally seen people with dementia go into complete remission of it, start recognizing their family and friends. And there's few things more beautiful than that.
Well, I've met two people from Hong Kong recently, and they didn't know each other, and they both said, it's also called Bring Back from the Dead. Which is unbelievable. That's why I suppose for the Chinese they revered it for so long. So listen, this has been absolutely amazing. Just finally, if there's one bit of advice you could give people to lead a better life, what would you say?
Well, what could be better than My 365, right? You get daily motivation. Well, you bring great content. I mentioned this morning, you are the king of content. You've got, I don't know how much material that you just so willingly share. And you keep growing yourself and sharing your influence. And it's a beautiful way to go. So I would have everybody tell their friends, listen in consistently, apply what you say, and your life will get better. It's a given.
Isn't that amazing? I'm so thankful to you for your time. If anyone wants more information, we've got some amazing resources that we're more than happy to share with people around the health benefits, about the opportunity. You can let us know. It's easy to contact us. But Dr. Bob, thank you so much for your time. I know we've got to make a move. In 35 minutes, we are starting a seminar on sports nutrition. So thank you. Amazing. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you always, Pete.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you want more free inspiration to optimize your life so you can achieve your goals in all the different areas of your life, then visit my365.me. That's mi365.me and sign up to 365 days of free coaching with me, Pete Cohen. Thanks for listening and have an awesome day.